Hi, I'm Chris from Sure Shot Construction Services, and today we're going to begin a series that I think I'm going to call How Long Does It Take? So we just want to try and demystify a few things about service locating, and one of the things that trips people up all the time is how long things take to do, because everyone seems to think that everything in locating is a 5-minute job. So, real simple one to start with. I've got this house here. I've already knocked on the door, and I've got the permission of the resident to come in and do my thing. It is a Saturday morning, so I'm not going to film him because he just got out of bed, and fair play to him. But what we're going to do is this particular property here. We can see that our communications and our power supply is overhead. So we don't need to worry about those. We've been through the plans and no underground is shown feeding the property for those two utilities, but we do have gas and water in the property. So all I've done is gone inside, knocked on the door, dropped my bag inside. Obviously I can see where the gas meter is, but I haven't eyeballed the water meter yet. So we are going to, from this point, and obviously knocking on every door and speaking to every resident is going to take time as well. But just for this little exercise, we've got our little stopwatch here, so we are going to start the clock. And I'm not going to try and sprint and do this as quickly as I can. This is just normal work pace. So let's get that going and see how long it takes. Okie dokie. Okie dokie, so let's talk about gas trace wires for a second. So we've got this little wire here, and I don't know if it's coming up on the camera, but there's these little, it looks like it's fraying on the outside. Now it's not like the actual wire itself is fraying, because that's not how that works. There's a little film on the outside that's the insulator, which you can strip back if you've got proper wire strippers with you. That'll definitely get the job done. But if you don't want to carry half your tools around while you're working, we can improvise a little bit and use your clip to strip down to that. So when I'm locating these services, you've obviously got a bit of a choice for your earth stake placement. You can go over in the garden bed over there. It's not a lot of distance for our return path to separate from our target path, but most of the time that'll work. So if that's the only option you've got, generally that'll be okay. But if you've got a bit of room to widen your circuit, that's usually my preferred option. With garden beds, I just like to take the loose stuff off the top if I can, and if it's too loose for too deep, I'll shorten the circuit length a bit and come into the garden bed over here, into the lawn where the ground's a bit more compacted, so it'll give me better contact with my earth stake. Okay. Let's Turn that up a smidge. Okay, we had 2 signals there. Often when you're checking peak and null, if your first bite of your peak and null is a bit off, it might be because you rushed your checking of your peak. So there is no shame in having a second go at your peak. And also that other bit of noise that I heard over here, there's no actual peak. So that's fine. So 1 signal. Now in this particular street, so we don't have to mark the inside of the property. This particular street has a poly main, and I have looked for a trace wire, which I have not found. I have the measurements for where this gas main is supposed to be, which is here. The reason I haven't marked it yet is because I do carry ground penetrating radar, and I have not gone to that part of the scan yet. So before I say I definitely can't locate it and just mark the offsets, I'm going to try with the radar. So that's why there's no paint there yet. If we pick up our signal from where we were, so we're not going to be able to trace to a known end, but we're going to be able to trace to where the plan at least shows it's supposed to go. So the signal to me, that's the end of a signal. So when I mark like this, what I like to do is I'll leave that last bit until I've marked the main, but I'll mark the asset leading up to that point. Okay. So peak and null's pretty tidy there. And with these depths, so I've got 0.35. Remember, your depths are always to the middle of the field that's been created. And you can always check. So that's roughly 450 mil. And my knee's about 500 mil. So that height change that I've created with the receiver there holds, which means that there's a good chance that that depth is reasonably accurate. Okie dokie. Ready for the next locator. Okay, so before I take that out, just in case that earth stake placement is handy, which I don't think it will be, but I'm going to try and find this water meter. You can see a PVC riser over here. I think that's just rocks. Okay. So off in the front tap should be
in line with the meter. Here we go. And there's probably a few of you screaming when I got to that tap going, it's going to bloody be there. And you were right. But sometimes locators are dummies and don't do the simple thing first. You can see this thing's fairly collapsed. What I'm trying to do is just get enough of it exposed that I can get a clip on it. If this was much harder, you'd have to go to the truck and get a little trowel, shovel, something like that, but I'm hoping that'll give me enough of a connection there. So let's try that. Okay, I don't love that Earth State placement for that meter, so we're going to swap that. Okie dokie. Okay. Ground's fairly loose there, but we'll see how we go. We're not in pursuit of perfection here, we're in pursuit of a pipe. So as long as the signal works, I am happy. Now it's a bit hard to feel with that dirt if what I've connected to on the pipe there was conductive. We can see we've got a circuit happening though, so let's give it a go. So it's only going to be a short pipe, so ignore the blue paint in the road, that's a previous locator. I personally think that's more likely an abandoned gas main they've marked there, but whether I'm right and they're wrong doesn't actually matter. As long as the pipe doesn't get broken, then we should all be happy. So there's our connection in there. This is where I believe and where the service drawing believes our live water main is. Okay, so we have signal there. I always like to make sure it's not poking out somewhere else in the property. So just the one signal. Peak and null looks pretty solid to me. It's getting a bit quiet, turn that up. So often with these house feeds, you can pick up the one going to the other side of the street at the same time. We haven't done that necessarily here. And the signal doesn't always carry from the service to the main either, just because the two are conductive. There could be something at the connection that's stopping your electrical signal from carrying, but the signal does get to where the main is and then stop. So that's as good a trace to a known end as we can achieve on this guy. So 0.0 0.2 depth, 0.24, 0.6. I'm going to mark the depth. I'm going to mark it slightly shallower than the reading, saying the 500mm check from ground to knee was a little bit off, so I think there might be a slight error in that depth, so we're going to err on the side of caution. And if someone has to get the shovel out a slight bit sooner rather than later, I can live with that, mostly because it's not me doing the shovel work. Okay, and because I have a line on this main, I'm happy to draw that T in. Let's go collect our stuff. So I always carry these tools around as well. It's often handy. Okay. You probably just saw some leaves there. Hope that was fun for nature lovers. Okay. Okay, one house done. There we go. 16 minutes. Now, obviously, I could have shaved possibly a few minutes off if I'd have got my skates on and actually like hooked in and try to do that as quickly as I could. But remember, we're working 8-hour plus days at a minimum when we're locating, and we've got to try and work at a pace that we can sustain all day, and we're not always going to have to dig around the bushes to try and find meters, so that's going to save a bit of time. Sometimes we're not going to have a signal that works at first attempt. That's going to add time because we're going to try and rectify that before we give up on something like, say, a trace wire. We're going to have a go at fixing it before we move away, so that's going to add more time. So yeah, hopefully that's useful. So we'll upload these things every now and again, just to give locators and people that use underground locating services a bit of an idea as to what actually goes in out on site to get this job done properly. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys soon.